Why did you become a recording artist?
Uh, at one point in time in my life, I felt like that was the only thing that was listening to me.
Now, how did you get into hip hop and R&B music specifically, those genres there?
Man, I'm gonna say I get it from the s.u.c culture in Houston, man. A lot of them boys used to remake records and harmonize Fat Pat, Big Mo, Lil Kiki, Big Hawk. I feel like I get it from, everybody that's before me in Houston, Texas.
When it comes to hip hop or R&B, those genres of music there, which one was the first genre of music you encountered? Or was it both at the same time?
I'm gonna say both at the same time, because you grow up listening to the radio in your town, and you got some hip hop and R&B, and I say hip hop, but for the most part, shit, I always remember them singing ass songs in the back of my head, them R. Kelly's, My granny, had a little jukebox, a little spot where everybody come get their liquor from. So I remember all the old school songs and all that. So it's a balance between hip hop and R&B, to be honest.
When it came to the s.u.c artists you just mentioned, how did you discover their music, or did someone put you onto them back then?
Uh, I was rubbing shoulders with them. I used to get my hair cut with them. I used to be in the spots they used to slow the music down at. Um, my people was, really tapped in with them. Like I remember seeing all of them my whole life, until, a few of them passed away. And the ones that still living, I still brush shoulders with them and got records with them.
Did you rub shoulders with DJ Screw himself?
Nah, I remember I was young. I remember being outside of a house that had a long ass line. And shit, when my daddy got back in the car, that nigga ain't had no food or nothing. He just get the fucking with the radio, and for the most part, I ain't know where I was at until I got older and started doing music. And one day I just asked my daddy, like, man, I was at Screwhouse, man. He used to leave us in the car, come back to the car and get the chains and the tapes and all that. He like, hell yeah, you remember that? I'm like, hell yeah, I remember that shit, boy, 'cause I thought you would come back with some food, boy.
Do you remember what that house looked like back then?
I just remember the burglar bars. Yeah, I just remember the burglar bars. I don't remember the color it was. Just remember a long ass line, and my daddy, like, before we got to the house, he'll just get out the car and go get his little tape or two.
Now, is it safe to say these s.u.c artists, or even R. Kelly, which you named earlier, were these your musical influences as well? And if not, who?
R. Kelly wasn't no music influence. I just heard him a lot, from my grandma and my aunties and all them. Man, my music influence, like I say, everybody from Houston, the Fat Pats, Lil Kiki, Messy Marv, from out there in Cali. But I'ma say on the new wave side, my last 10, 15 years, I say Rick Ross. Just his whole demeanor, how he move, how he highlight that being a boss, life. I feel like a lot of people probably don't get it, but I be paying attention to bruh and how he live and how he move.
What drew you to Messy Marv?
Say that again?
What drew you to Messy Marv?
Man, we used to slow his music down, man. My big homies at DJ Bone house, he like the living Screw in Houston. Screw passed and Bone lit the torch back up and screwed all the music since Screw been passed away in Houston, Texas. And man, I find myself just loving artists that ain't from the city, and it's because my big homies, they, go do their research and go find the local artists in these towns. And shit, we'll bring their music back to the city and slow it down and got a whole city full of people that people really don't know in our city, but we introduce them to them. And I say we because, again, man, my era of people, my age group, while I'm in school, I'm taking that same music they introducing me to my high school and middle school and putting people on to these out-of-town artists that nobody knew about.
When it comes to Rick Ross, when it comes to Messy Marv, when it comes to some of these s.u.c. artists you just mentioned here when I asked you?
Nah, see, Rick Ross, he from Miami. He a Florida boy. Messy Marv, he from California. I can say them just two people that was influences to me, you know, growing up.
Right, but that's what I'm building up this next question. So when it comes to Rick Ross, when it comes to Messy Marv, when it comes to the s.u.c. artists you mentioned
Right.
on musical influences, you mentioned Kiki and a couple
Right.
other names. Have you had a chance to personally meet any of these artists at this point?
All the s.u.c. I mean, Fat Pat, he passed away. I went to his funeral in his wake. DJ Screw, I went to his funeral. Rick Ross, I ain't met him yet. I done performed on the same stage as him a few weeks ago at the Coalition DJs event. And Messy Marv, we done DM back and forth. I mean, shit, that was enough for me, you know. I mean, for the most part, I pray, you know, Big Homie get himself together, get his health together and everything.
But you reach out to him or he reaches out to you on
Nah,
DM?
I reached out to him and just let him know how much he motivated me as a young nigga to keep on going, keep doing what he doing.
And for time reference, it's March 2021
Mm-hmm.
as of this interview. Now, when it came to rapping, how did you learn how to rap? What was that learning process like for you?
Man, I think I always used to be writing stuff down, like fake rapping when I was young. So like once I got older and I started seeing studios and shit, it just started making sense for me, and I already had it down packed just from, you know, writing on my own.
So safe to say you were self-taught?
Yeah, I would say I was self-taught, you know, plus being motivated by, you know, everybody in Houston that was doing it before me. I've been a music head. My daddy always kept us, you know, listening to music. The state properties, you know, all the people in New York, California, you know, the underdogs in Florida and stuff.
And when it came to rapping, this was something you wanted to do on your own, or was it a suggestion? Maybe someone put a battery behind your back, so to speak.
Man, I'm gonna say they probably, you know, tap me in my back, you know, and let me know, man, you need to be doing this. But on the back end, I feel like, man, I push myself to go with my move after I figured out I can do it.
Now, at this point, you are a serious recording artist.
Mm-hmm.
How long would you say you've been serious for? Rough estimate.
I say I've been serious for about 8 years or so. I mean, but you know, not serious the whole time. I had spurts where I'm backing out of the music and, you know, taking pride in something else, but I was serious the whole time.
You've signed a recording contract recently.
Mm-hmm.
Your third recording contract.
Mm-hmm.
And this time it's with 1501 / eOne.
Right.
And when I say this is your third recording contract, are we including these two together as one entity? I mean, I know they're separate companies, but are we, in your history of recording contracts, is this included as one and then you had two other times in your life where you signed a recording contract?
Nah, I'm combining them.
Okay. Now, how did that happen? 1501 and eOne.
Man, that's a rare situation, man. You don't too much get an artist that as soon as you sign them, you know, as soon as, you know, you do business with them, a label with bigger status, you know, with a bigger system, you know, ready to put a budget behind an artist that you signing at the same time that you signing them. So, you know, where it might sound weird, it's a blessing for, you know, a nigga like me from Third Ward, you know, that shot my shot before, you know, in the music industry, made the billboards, the indie billboards a few years back, #1 records in my city, but it just ain't worked for me my first time around. You know, like I found myself, you know, just getting all my money out the streets and not off the music. And, you know, years later, you know, I come get in the situation, you know, Carl Crawford, shout out to him, he tapped in with me in my DM, and like I say, we get to work, and you know, I go handle my business with my lawyer, and the same day I sign to him, you know, I signed, you know, to a bigger situation, you know, and opportunity presented itself, you know, in a, I can say in a strong fashion, in a strong form, you know, all at one time. So, you know, like I say, where it might sound like it's weird, it's really a blessing for a nigga like me.
Why'd you choose to sign with them? 1501 and eOne.
Ownership. They they gave me, you know, they respected me. You know, I can say that, you know, first off. You know, a lot of artists don't get respect, you know, in their contracts. You know, it was respect off rip, you know, and in both situations, I can say, you know, with somebody, you know, they moved out, eOne moved off one record, my new record featuring Erica Banks. And while I was building a project with Carl Crawford at 1501, so for the most part, we just operating off of one record right now with this contract. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to, you know, what we're going to present to the world when we present the project and everything else.
What's the title of the song you're referencing here?
It's titled Rock Out, featuring Erica Banks, produced by my boy Sergeant J from Arkansas. No, from Texarkana, my bad. My boy from Texarkana, but he produced Busted, Erica Banks' hot record that she got with Travis Scott on the remix and her by herself, produced by my boy Sergeant J.
And do you remember when you actually signed? Do you remember the date or the month?
Nah, it was a few weeks ago though.
And even though it's only been a few weeks, I'll still ask this question. Looking back, did you make the right or wrong decision there?
I made the right decision. Cause, you know, for the most part, you know, I ain't just one of them to get a contract and just sign it. You know, I went and handled my business with the black and white and made sure everything, you know, was cordial on both ends, made sure it was respect on both ends, and like I said, I went with my move.
In full disclosure here, a rep at 1501 did reach out to set this interview up. They're not in the room with us, but they did set this up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in these 8 years of being a serious recording artist, ever felt like quitting?
Oh yeah, for sure. Shit. 50% of my day is waking up being a rapper. I wake up and don't want to do the shit.
Was it just a thought or a feeling, or did you actually take a break or stop?
Yeah, I took a break a few times.
Why?
Shit, it wasn't paying me. It was, you know, I had the clout, I had the love in my city, but it just wasn't paying me. You know, it was making my life harder, to be honest.
Care to explain?
I mean, shit, you know, all that, you know, the love you get from the city, you know, you taking pictures everywhere, and you know, the shit is not helping you when it's time to pay bills, you know, when it's time to feed your son, time to spoil your broad, take care of your grandma and your family, people that you love and need. You know, I couldn't do nothing for them because I was ripped. I knew, like, man, I need everything I'm making out the street for me. And, like, so, like, everything I did, it was just, you know, because I got a heart. But on the back end, a lot of the shit I did in the city, I really ain't had the money to do it, you know, because I really was tapping in my profit. I really was tapping in, you know, my real money, shit, my bill money. Man, a lot of shit that, you know, the average artist won't do, you know, I was doing, going to go feed the homeless, helping people in my hood, you know, with their bills. So, like I say, the millions I did make in the streets, man, I blew that shit on purpose, to be honest with you.
What kept you coming back to music?
Because that's the only thing that listen to me, man. My mama don't hear me sometimes. My son, shit, it's all about him, so shit, I don't expect him to listen. But he really do. And you know, my broad at home, you know, she a big, you know, a big ear to me, a big help to me. You know, but even still, you know, us men, we arrogant, man. So sometimes I ain't trying to hear what she talking about, you know. So like I say, at times, man, the music, the only thing I wanted to deal with, The only person I wanted to listen to was the beat, you know, myself and the microphone.
Did anyone ever in these 8 years tell you, you know what? Maybe this music stuff isn't for you. You should quit forever.
Man, I never heard that a day in my life. I hear the opposite. Every time in my life where I didn't want to do it, man, I had, you know, homeless people, bums, crackheads, you know, people that ain't got it, that ain't rich, you know, that just living off what they got, what they blessed with, you know, inspiring me to keep going or making me get back into the music.
Risk versus reward. What's the biggest risk you took for your music career so far?
I mean, shit, I done took a few of them that I never speak on, you know, on the back end. I say, I don't even think I took the biggest risk yet, but for the most part, so far, I say, man, sacrificing being away from everything I love, being in front of strangers like yourself, you know, that I'm familiar with through the, you know, the industry and all that, but, you know, just having to do a whole bunch of work that come with it, but I'm away from everything I love, and it make me real uncomfortable, but comfortable enough to know that, you know, I'm better in my situation. You know, I'm doing shit that's gonna, you know, really set an example for the youngins that need somebody to follow.
Have you actually talked about this in your music?
No, I mean, I feel like, I motivate the people, but probably not that specific subject. But if you listen to my music, you'll get that out of it.
When it comes to this particular risk that you mentioned, was it worth it? Or has it been worth it?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, as long as I'm alive and free, shit, whatever I'm doing gonna be worth it, cause I ain't gonna be out here just, you know, moving backwards. So, definitely it was worth it.
Proudest accomplishment so far in your music career?
Man, I say the bounce back. You know, bouncing back after, you know, a lot of people in my city, you know, probably thought it was over with for me. A lot of people that never met me in the world, you know, probably would have never met me, you know, or wouldn't get a chance to meet me in the future if I ain't keep going. So really, man, I'm proud of myself for just staying down and never complaining, man. I never complained about nothing. Like, I went through a lot of gay shit, you know, that the industry just naturally provide to you, you know, and on the back end, I stood tall, you know, I ain't blemish nobody's image. I ain't never feel the need to even bring a nigga up, you know, but on the back end, I rewarded myself every day I woke up, got in the streets and, you know, just tried.
Has that been a fulfilling accomplishment for you?
Hell yeah, man, I'm on go, man. I'm doing interviews, I'm doing shows, I'm, you know, back on the radio. Like, man, this shit, you know, some people it happen once in a lifetime. For me, it happened too.
Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, biggest failure so far in your music career?
Man, I say my biggest failure was, you know, letting my people down the first go around. I ain't failed myself because I know I presented the right work, you know, to the system I was in. You know, we just had, you know how they go, man, when everybody ain't on the same page, everybody ain't on the same accord, no matter how big the vision is, how good the work is, it ain't gonna work, you know, and we had some selfish people involved and, you know, some good fellas involved too, you know, so like I say, my biggest failure was letting my people down when they thought I was about to go, but again, that's my biggest failure to me for them, but I ain't failed yet, to be honest.
When it comes to tactics, methods, strategy, single best thing you've done for your career so far, looking back at it? Was there one thing you look back and you're like, wow, I'm really glad I did that?
Yeah, going to get ownership of everything I done. Like I ain't own shit at first, and I was just on the radio, moving around with Power Wall and Nelly, you know, on tour, and I ain't own shit. So now, you know, 5, 6, 7 years later, I own everything, and it just feel good, man, knowing that I listened to my mama, when she was telling me. Well, I ain't listening at first, but when I woke up, it just meant a lot to me that she tried to wake me up when I was being, just naive to the truth.
What was that experience like? On tour with Paul Wall and Nelly.
Man, it was cool. Man, I got to see how the big dogs move, and just how I want my system to go when it's on me. Paul Wall, big shout out to him. He always showed me love and support in my career. Always big dogged me, man. He ain't never little bro me. He always sharpened my iron and gave me game. Nelly, man, I learned a lot from his stage presence and just how he interact with the women. And like I say, he pop his shit, man. Every time he out there, I learned a lot from that, being on the road with them.
How long was that tour? Or how many dates were you a part of? Do you remember?
It was the Grills tour, and it's one of them things where they had promoters booking them, for 4-5 years in a row, so I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you, I don't know how many shows I did with Paul, probably over 50, I don't know, how long the tour lasted, because we was in and out of, 4, 5, 6 tour dates and shit, so I just can say, like I said, I appreciate Big Homie for, giving me leeway and, helping me push my career at an early age.
And how'd you become a part of that tour?
Because we had the same management at the time. So Paula let me come open up, and rock out with him. And shit, once they start feeling what we had going on, shit, it just became a natural. Him and Johnny will want me on tour with them. They'll want me, going out of town. They'll ask my manager, am I coming? And if I ain't had nothing going on, I get on the road with them boys.
Was it just strictly in the United States, or would you ever travel outside the country?
Yeah, it was just in the United States. I went down to Mexico, but it was just in the United States.
What was that like, a show in Mexico?
Oh, man, them niggas dangerous, boy. They serious, man. They surrounded our bus like on some, when y'all get out, we got y'all. Like it was about 10, 12, 13, 14 of them. I'm talking about the love they had was different, man. I can say that, like it seemed like they were ready to die for us or something if somebody tried us. So I appreciate the valley, man. They had everything we needed when we got there, ready for us and everything.
And do you remember how many shows you ended up doing in Mexico? Was it just like a one-off date, or you guys had a couple shows out there?
We had about 3 shows out there. It was a weekend where we had like 3 shows, 2 in one day, and then 1 in the next day.
Was the language ever an issue?
Paul know how to communicate with a lot of different languages, man. Paul real different, man. He and then too, like I say, I don't know how they go, man, but the man different, man. Like I watched him communicate with, like 5 to 6 different personnels and backgrounds, and I don't know how he understand all of them.
But what about for you personally? Was there a language barrier issue for you, or no, you were able to?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if somebody's speaking anything outside of English, I really can't understand it. I can tell when it's love and when it ain't. I know I got a lot of common sense.
Ever took a foreign language class in school?
I probably took a bilingual class or something.
High school, middle school?
Really both. I wasn't really paying attention though. I was kind of, I had the girls doing my work, just making it work for me.
What do you remember? What middle school you went to? What high school you went to?
Yeah, Lanier Middle School, CEP, and Jack Yates High School. We were ranked #1 in the nation when I was there.
In what?
In basketball.
Did you play as well?
Nah, I played football and ran track, but I was at all their games though, popping my shit with them, man. shout out Coach Wise too, man. He wanted me to play, but I went to a predominantly black school, so the coaches wasn't really in agreement on players playing both sports. I was kind of in the middle of shit, when basketball season come around, I want to be in the streets a little bit since I'm taking football serious. So I mean, it was me.
How far did you get with sports?
I went to Grambling State on a track scholarship. Ended up catching a couple of cases. They cut me short. Sent me back to the hood. I ended up getting on the radio on their ass in a couple of months. So I was blessed. I turned a tragedy situation, into, a fortunate situation.
Was that freshman year, sophomore year, junior year?
Yeah, my
year?
first year. My first year, I got kicked out. I was selling a little smoke, just trying to, stay active with myself mentally. And it just ain't worked for me because I was trying to do right and wrong, and it just ain't mixed. And on the back end, I was still doing music in my dorm room. Some days wake up, don't even, realize I'm at school. I'm, done brought the streets with me. Then I'm doing music, so it's like I was occupied and down there all the days I was there. Like some days I realized, like, boy, you need to go to class. Boy, you need to, pay for this, pay for that. But on the back end, like I say, I enjoyed the experience, just seeing the world bigger than my block, bigger than where I'm from in Houston.
Looking back, do you regret that situation at all?
Nah, I feel like, man, that going there kept me alive. I mean, 'cause it was a bad time in my city in 2010 where a lot of, the murder rate had rose. So I feel like I jumped the city at the right time to really, go find myself.